Mr. Khan, I was struck by Senator Schott's question, and you know, Honolulu is such a distant, isolated, and overcrowded place. I think it's commendable that you would be willing to visit such a disadvantaged. On the other hand, it's a mere 2.5 hours down to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, and perhaps you'd like to make that trip first. The FAST Act mandated that the FRA convene a working group to evaluate the restoration of intercity passenger rail between New Orleans and Orlando, a corridor that was significantly impacted by Hurricane Katrina, as you know. What will you do to support the restoration of passenger rail along the Gulf Coast, and how will you be the federal partner to these communities that need to realize the economic benefits of restored passenger rail?
Thank you, Senator. I know that this is a very important rail line that, that goes through Gulfport, Bay St. Louis, Pascagoula, and I have studied the rail line, some of the options that exist. Senator, it is a very important issue, I know, for not only the state of Mississippi, but for some of the local states. I look forward to working with you, the Southern Rail Commission, with Amtrak, and with the department to identify options and opportunities to try to bring back that rail line.
Okay, well, I appreciate that assurance. Let me shift to an area where I serve on the board. That's the Merchant Marine Academy. As you know, the sea year was suspended for a while. Commendably, Secretary Chow has reinstated the sea year aboard commercial vessels, but there's still much work to be done at this a very excellent university. While vessels participating in the Maritime Security Program are required to host midshipmen for the sea year, there's currently no incentive for other vessels to participate in this training program. Will you work with MARAD to address this issue and ensure that midshipmen receive the training they need to serve our merchant mariner workforce?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very, very much. Now, Mr. Reddle, let me ask you about FirstNet. FirstNet is expected to release its draft state plans to each of the states and territories by the end of this month. These draft plans will detail how FirstNet proposes to deploy the nationwide public safety broadband network in those areas. The statute allows states to opt out of FirstNet's plan and build their own radio access network if the states believe they can better accommodate the needs of first responders in their own jurisdiction. Do you believe the opt-out choice in the statute is meant to allow states the true right to opt out of FirstNet and construct their own radio access networks?
Senator, I first and foremost hope that when these plans come out later this month, that every state will find them to meet the needs of their state and their public safety users. However, as you rightly note, the statute does provide an opt-out. And yes, it is my belief that the states should be given the opportunity to truly opt out. But the statute also says that it's NTIA's job to make sure that those opt-out plans meet the needs of public safety users. If I'm confirmed, I will absolutely work with each state that wants to opt out to ensure that their opt-out right is recognized and that their public safety users get the network that they need.
Do you think this statute allows enough time for states to conduct an adequate review of its communications and coverage needs before choosing to opt in or opt out of FirstNet? And explain why.
I certainly hope so, Senator. There's been a lot of work done at the state level to date in the lead up to this point. The SLIG-P process, the State and Local Implementation Grant Program, provided states with funding to prepare for this decision and to prepare for what their public safety users will need. So I certainly hope that the amount of time they have will be adequate.
What does the statute say with regard to time?
There's a fixed amount of time that they have from the time that they receive their plans to review, and if they choose to opt out, then they'll have to opt out, I believe it's 90 days. They'll have to opt out, and they'll have to submit their plan to the Federal Communications Commission first to see if their plan would be interoperable with FirstNet.
With regard to user fees, as administrator, how will you work to ensure that user fees don't become a cost burden for rural users such as those in Hawaii and Mississippi?
networks aren't much without users, Senator. And if you've got a network that people can't afford to be on, you lose that network effect. So if confirmed, I will work with FirstNet to make sure that we get as many people on the network as possible.
In Colorado. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.